Hello there. Hi. Welcome to Butterfly Effect. This is a podcast all about interviewing people. I'm your host, Tristan Edelman. Hope things are going well with you. I'm alright. Thank you for asking. I felt kind of sick lately, and I'm relatively healthy. I don't even want to call attention to it, but just the stupidity and the vitriol out in the world. It's bringing me down. It's bringing me down, and I don't want to feed the negativity, but so if you haven't heard, there's this guy organizing like pro-rape rallies. It's just and that's like obviously a very vocal minority, and the only reason why it's so in my head is because Jermaine Clement of Flight of the Conchords and other fame. I really like him. He's great. What We Do in the Shadows is a fantastic film. But he's engaging with some of these people on Twitter a lot, and so I see it, and it's in my mind of just, fuck, how mean and stupid do you have to be? And that's like, okay, again, vocal minority, whatever. And then just like Meninist shit. Not Mennonite, Meninist, like the opposite of feminist. Because like a while ago there was that Twitter account that got created, and a bunch of people I knew were retweeting it. And just I have no words. This is the worst radio ever because I'm not saying anything. But I think you understand when I make these exasperated sounds how I feel about it. And it's negativity and whatever, but I'm feeling a little negative right now anyways, so a lot of stupid people out there, stupid men in this case. Just why do they suck so much? And I know guys like that. And I know there are people that are like that, and that's why it just boils inside of me. Okay. Let's be positive here. I had a very positive conversation with my guest today, Ross Everett, who is a very kind man, a very funny man. I think we had a great conversation. I'll say it. It was great. Maybe I'm alone on that. But Ross is a comedian. He does stand-up. He has a YouTube channel, the Ross Everett, I believe. He plugs it himself as well. But he's well known for being on SourceFed, the news / comedy YouTube channel, which is how I became aware of him. And he was a force on SourceFed for a while, and I watch a lot of stuff with him in it, and I really took a liking to his sense of humor and his himself, his personality, his person. And so after Ross left SourceFed, some people were kind of left, and we talked about this. People were like, well, where'd he go? He just disappeared because he didn't really have a proper goodbye. And we talked about that briefly, but it's not the focus of his life anymore, and so I wanted to respect that. But I'd been following what Ross was doing pretty well, and so I wanted to talk to him. So that's why I talked to him. All right? Get off my back. I don't know why you'd be on my back anyways. So Ross is doing great. He's doing stand-up. He's doing his YouTube channel, and we talk about that. So just as a heads up, since these interviews are done over Skype, there are sometimes sound issues. At one point, Ross kind of cuts in and out and has kind of a weird sound to his voice because of internet connection issues, I would assume. So just as a heads up, that happens at some point in the interview. So, but I hope you enjoy all of it regardless, and I'll see you on the other side. So what was going on? Were you in Tucson?
Yeah, I went to Tucson with Mike Falzone and Elliot Morgan. We performed some stand-up down there. And then
how'd that go? Because that's pretty close. Relatively. I'm in Phoenix, so.
Oh, you should have come. It went really well. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I knew you guys were coming. I just couldn't get the day off work. But,
yeah.
But it all went well there. What's the crowd like in Tucson?
Very friendly.
College kids?
Surprisingly, no. Like, I felt
Huh.
like the front row was about 50-50, like 50% college kids and 50% like adults. Like, they looked like they were my parents' age, maybe a little younger. But I was like, okay, cool. And they were down to laugh and play, and just a really good crowd.
How long was your set?
I did 15 minutes.
Cool.
Yeah.
And how have you been doing? Stand up a lot lately?
Yeah, that's like the thing that I'm really pushing hard and pursuing right now.
And how's that all going?
Great, really great. I got a performance in San Francisco last weekend, Tucson this weekend, and hopefully, in 2016, I'm gonna try and really take it all over the country.
That'd be great. Are you in LA right now?
I'm in LA. I'm back in LA.
Yeah, so that's a tough town, I guess, to get started.
Not really. I'd say it's one of the easiest. When I was up in San Francisco last year, that was a tough town to get started in.
Mm-hmm. I guess there's just a lot of opportunities in LA. It just seems like there's a lot of people there that are vying for the same thing.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like there's a limited number of spots.
Right.
So it's not like hey, there are 6 dozen of you, we have room for 3. It's just like, hey, there are 6 dozen of you, so we have like 6 dozen opportunities for you guys to come up and do your stuff.
And when did you start, as you said, pushing hard for this?
About March. March is when I really started taking it seriously.
And what was what was the indication of like why did you want to go into stand up, like for seriously, as it were?
Yeah, I don't know. Like it was Elliot was doing it, and
yeah.
And I'd given it a shot like 4 years ago and liked it, but I just didn't have the support from like friends, because I'm a very social person. So like I like to go out with friends, and it's much easier for me to stick with something if I have a group doing it. So like Elliot was doing it, and Mike and I were kind of like, hey, can we go with you to one of these open mics? And he's like, yeah, sure. So we all just started going together. It made it much easier, much more of a group activity.
Yeah, and he just got a special, right? He's doing a special.
Elliot's doing a special. I went to the taping of it. It's going to be really funny. It's going to be really good. I recommend everyone go to ElliotMorganSpecial.com and pre-order
plug your friend's stuff. That's a good. Well, is there anything like that? I mean, I know that's a big goal, but anything like that you obviously you'd want to do that in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to do something like that in the future. Right now, I mean, like Elliot's maybe like a year ahead of me in terms of like, hustling. So he had an hour's worth of material, whereas like I'm now this was the first time I ever did 15 minutes, and now I'm feeling like very comfortable with 15 minutes. I was actually surprised when like they gave me the light. I was like, oh, I still have more stuff to do. That's good. Like because the night before, we were invited to go to this other show. Like they saw our name on a list, and they were like, hey, if you want to come do a show on Thursday night too, you're welcome to come. We're like, yeah, like that, why not? So we showed up, and it was just a house. And I've done, in LA, my friends run a show called Comedy Living Room, and it's great.
Yeah.
So like that, like I was like, cool, a house show. Yeah, whatever, you guys, let's do it. And like 6 people showed up, and like most of them were comedians, and the light switches didn't have light covers, and I was like, cool, okay. And they were like, Ross, you want to go first? And I was like, yeah, sure. And like, okay, cool, step on up there. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So I stepped up, and I was like, ladies and gentlemen, next comedian coming to the stage, very funny. Please put your hands together for Ross Everett. And then I walked off and walked back on, and I think I did that like 3 or 4 times, just because I was like, okay, yeah, no MC, no intro. But I did all of my material there, and I was only supposed to do 10 minutes. And I was like, I still haven't gotten the light. And I was thinking to myself, like, I'm so fucked. Can I swear on this thing?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, I'm so butt fucked. No, I'm so screwed. Now I go back to not doing it. I'm just so fucked to the next night when I have to do 15 if I can't even do 10 in a room full of people. But it was so easy. It was like like I've been preparing for months now, but I felt very comfortable up on that stage, and it always helps when people we tweeted it out, and we try to get our audience to come out as much as possible, and it helps having people in the crowd that already like you, because they're like, cool, we get to see you in person and do your thing, and that's that's the upside to already having somewhat of a following on the internet, with this.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, have you done a lot of shows that have been, like, just, I guess, strangers? I mean, they're all strangers, but you know what I mean? Like, people that aren't familiar with you, is that harder to do for you? Like, are you conscious of that?
It isn't hard. It is harder, but it's not like, oh, God, I don't know anyone here. Yeah. But it's significantly easier. Even though it's a little bit more nerve-wracking before the show when I know that there are going to be people in the audience, it's significantly, like, I just feel lighter up there. Like, I'll say something that won't normally get a laugh because it's, like, part of the setup. And if people know me in the audience, the setup gets the laugh. And I'm like, oh, cool. All right. Like, you guys are on board already. I don't have to work to earn, like, get you on my team. You're already on my team.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a weird question, but I haven't been able to see it. What's your material like? Like, I don't want, you can't really pin down comedy to one thing.
A lot of racist stuff. Yeah, a lot of, communism suggestions, down with the corporations. I don't know how to say it.
I know it's like really hard to explain, like, comedy.
I will say that I've taken a lot of the sketches that I've written and implemented them into my stand-up. So I'll take, like, I wrote this sketch about like a sorority girl that takes over ISIS and is like taking over the recruitment process, and I basically acted out, like, on stage by myself as the sorority girl. I talk a lot about so I traveled earlier this year. I went through Eastern Europe, and I did that whole coming-of-age story. And so I have a lot of experiences from that. So I'll take, like, my funny observations and experiences and weird things that have happened to me and extrapolate upon them.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That was before you were doing stand-up when you went and traveled, so were you, like, in that mode of noticing, or is that just how you live, though? You just notice those things?
Well, I journaled. Every day of that trip, I journaled.
Oh, okay.
I sat down and I wrote about what happened that day. And, I don't know if this is narcissistic, but I wrote it as if it was going to be important to someone later.
No, I mean, that's I think we all do that.
Yeah.
like our Twitter feed is like, this is going to be a document when I get famous. Everyone's going to know this is me.
And look at all your racist jokes and prevent me from getting the job. But so I was fortunate that, like, the things that I wrote in there were just my experiences. And then I also did the travel series, the Euro trip on my YouTube channel.
I saw that you had.
So, like, that was initially just supposed to kind of be like a script or like a reference guide for me when making that. But now it's really turned into, like, oh, well, this is my life. And, like, I really want to make my comedy a reflection of that and a reflection of my perspective, because it's going to be the most true to me, and that's what's going to make it the most unique. I mean, like, every comedian, like, I was talking to a friend, he was saying, like, everything's been done before, everything's been done. I'm like, no, it hasn't. Like, everyone has this really unique perspective on their life. And while, yes, it resonates, or maybe other people have had similar thoughts, your experience is unique. And through that, you're going to be able to find your unique voice. Yeah,
that's a good mindset to have. I mean, if you had the opposite mindset as a starting stand-up comedian, I don't know where you'd be, because you'd be like, well, I guess I'm just not doing it because everyone's done it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so not to get too personal in this regard, but is the stand-up the main source of income, or are you doing other stuff?
Oh, I'm doing other stuff as well. There's some stuff that I can't talk about, but I mean, like, I write for a bunch of other YouTubers, as well as continue to do my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel, although small and humble, go follow it, the Ross Everett on YouTube. It brings in something, and then writing brings in the rest, and then I'm very thrifty. I mean, I cook a lot, so.
But you're doing the stuff you want to do, though. You're doing a bunch of different.
I went into an office the other day, and it was like a part-time gig, and I went in there, and I was just thinking to myself, like, I'm so happy. Not that the job was bad, but it's just like, I'm so happy that I work for myself and not for anybody else. Because, like, you can put your heart and soul into a project, and if someone else owns it, I find that it's really disheartening. And I've learned this lesson now twice. I've created a lot of content for a lot of other people. and I'm very proud of that content, and I'm so happy it's still online. But I've done a lot of work for them, and I'm like, if I would have taken that time and applied it to myself, which is what I'm doing right now, I would hopefully have something a little bit more sustainable. Because
and that's what stand-up is. Sounds like that's all you.
Stand-up's all me. Although I love doing it with Elliot and Mike. Like
sure.
Like it's so much fun to have like this crew. But like it's true. Like we are on stage by ourselves at that time, and then also the other projects that I'm working on right now, even the Ross News Armament on my channel. It's like I love working with other people, but like I want this to be mine. Or at the very least, like I want this to be ours. I don't mind sharing with others, but I want it to be mine as well.
Yeah, and if you had that mindset even like 20 years ago, it's like, well, get over it because you're working for someone, especially in like show business.
I had that mindset now. 20 years ago. I was 7 years old, and I was like, I want this Halloween candy to be all mine. You can have some. I just don't want to be borrowing your Halloween candy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
transfers through.
Yeah.
So speaking of when you were 7 years old, I guess where were you born? Where did you grow up? How was being a child for you?
Being a child was great. Being a prepubescent teenager sucked, but like childhood was phenomenal. I grew up in the Bay Area. I grew up in Marin County, California, right across the Golden Gate Bridge, which is why it was so.
I was born in Vallejo.
Look at you! We went to Vallejo when we wanted to play paintball. It's
not a fun place to live. That's probably the only thing you need to do there is to shoot things.
Yeah.
That's the best thing to do there.
But hey, that's like, most of the country, right?
Yeah, true.
So grew up in Marin County, California. My parents were therapists. They're still together to this day. They're very loving, very supportive, always have been. Let's see. So like growing up was interesting, not even upper middle class, like right between upper middle class and middle class family. Like we never went wanting, but we definitely didn't get everything that we were like the luxuries that we wanted. And like when Razor scooters were like a big thing, I remember like we kept getting knockoffs, and like that really, like I experienced first world problems, and I didn't really experience hardship until about middle school. I'd say middle school was really hard for me.
Like in terms of bullies, or just like in terms of family setting at home?
Family setting was always, I'm so fortunate. Family setting was always like really amazing and supportive, and my parents were going through everything that I went through with me because they always wanted the best for me, and that like I'm shocked I went into comedy with the amount of emotional support that I was giving. Like I have a joke that I say, like my dad, before my show in San Francisco, I was going to drive away, and he knocked on the window, and I rolled it down. And he said, "I want to let you know I've been looking forward to this for the past couple of days, and I'm very proud of you. But I think I'm going to keep doing comedy anyway." So it's very. They were always great, but I was young for my grade. My parents, we had this group of friends, like pre-K, right? And, they were a little bit older than me. And when they were going into kindergarten, my parents were like, well, we don't want Ross to be left behind, so we'll put him into kindergarten as well. So I was always the youngest in my grade. And so that was fine up until, puberty starts to hit, sixth grade, right? When people are like, ooh, what are girls? And I
had the same thing happen to me. I was 4 when I started kindergarten, so a year behind everyone.
And it's marvelous, and then everyone starts changing, and you're like, I'm a year away from caring about that. That's interesting. So when middle school hit, things got weird. My really good friends were more interested in girls, and I was just like, I just want to play Pokemon and skateboard. And they're like, okay, bye. So my friend group started to shift, and I was kind of left with the more the indoor kids, especially when popularity matters, and before the internet, or really before the dawn of the internet. I remember when I was in middle school, my friend Matt was like, check this out, and Googled, or not Googled, it was AOL search, search the word porn, and I was like, I don't even know what porn means, that sounds like a made up thing, and it's it's naked women, okay, now I'm on board with it. But yeah, so it was just this, real separation from the rest of my class and feeling like I didn't pick up on social cues, which now it's interesting. I'm hypersensitive to them. You're going to get much more from me than you bargained. I'm just giving you the heads up. Like,
oh,
yeah.
No, this is what I want.
Oh.
This is, I mean, I don't know. I kind of pulled this podcast from, inspiring from, WTF, Mark Maron's podcast, and they get real deep there. So that's what I want.
Cool.
Really.
Well, yeah. Let's see how much I'm going to give you.
Okay.
So that was an interesting aspect of my life because, like, I for a period of time was like pretty what felt like blind to the social cues of my peers, which often left me isolated in the dust, and I couldn't figure it out. And I was not popular. Like, I remember, like, this one kid made like a hit list, and this was like right after Columbine, and I was,
oh my God,
on it, and I was like, my mom, we had to
God.
have a lot of phone calls with like parents
Yeah.
meetings, and like, you know, the counselor like knew me by name. She was like, oh, hey Ross, you're back again? Yeah, who are we having a problem with this time? And like, that's why I was so fortunate to really have my parents' support, because it's like that, like, I could go home and talk to my parents about this, and they're like, great, well, let's get these other kids' parents on the phone and figure it out. And it was a really hard time. I wasn't quick-witted. They were all much smarter and quicker than me, and I didn't have any good comebacks. And I remember, like, I had this one friend, Taylor, and this was like in the dawn of AIM, where you could create any instant messenger name that you wanted, and it wasn't like associated with an email address. And I found this out. This is actually like troubling for me, but like, I would get these messages from these screen names, like, that they were like, you know, like, Ross has big fat tits, or like, you know, like, just like a really, like, not the most creative, but
that
still
sounds pretty complimentary, actually.
Very, you know, if I was a blossoming young woman, maybe, but as, you know, like a very self-conscious prepubescent boy,
right.
You know, it definitely wasn't at the top of my, like, hey, I feel good at myself list. But anyway, so like one day I was over at his house, and I remember I was like going to sign on to AIM, and I saw the screen names like in the previously logged in. There was like a drop down menu of like the previously logged in names, and I just saw them all there, and I was just like, what? Oh my God! I just felt like totally stabbed in the back. So anyway, middle school was like really a tough time for me socially.
Yeah, and so your parents were therapists, though, like you said, so that you had all the positive stuff, but none of the. I mean, if you tell someone that, someone might leap to the conclusion that like there was like they were overanalyzing you all the time, and you never felt like a certain way.
No,
but
we were too busy dealing with other stuff, and like I was very articulate, you know. So like they were like, oh no, like you know what you're going through, and it sucks. So that was interesting. It was actually like kind of through that isolation that I found theater, because I was like always like kind of a goofy kid, but it was the drama teacher that was like, hey, like you have something, so like why don't you come after school? Like, forget the sports. I wasn't coordinated. I was like I wasn't uncoordinated. I just wasn't, you know, good. So the drama teacher was like, why don't you come do the plays? And I just started doing the plays, and like they were all original, very funny compositions, but from this guy. And I just like started getting the leads in the plays, and like that was like, even though I never felt popular amongst the school, they never really teased me for doing drama, and that was just kind of where I found my comfort. And like my self-comfort was through doing that.
Yeah, a lot of the comedy people I've talked to are like, the drama teacher's really important, man. Like in the high school drama teacher, that made it for me. And so that's interesting that's pretty consistent, I feel like, a lot of the time.
Yeah.
If they get caught that early, at least it's the drama high school teacher that does it.
Yeah.
So through high school, did the middle school blues kind of mellow out, or was it because you had the outlet, the drama stuff going on?
Well, I switched high schools. So like there was the public high school that everyone else was going to, and I really wanted to go to this like arts program at this neighboring high school, and they liked me, and they were like, great, like, yep, get a teacher to recommend you, and you're in. And the teacher that I asked to recommend me dropped the ball and didn't submit the recommendation on time, so I didn't get into that program. But it actually turned out to be like a blessing. Like it was like, oh, like thank goodness I didn't wind up going to that school, because I wound up finding this Jewish high school in San Francisco. And by I wound up finding, I mean like my parents went and said, hey, come check this out. And I was like, no fucking way am I going to this high school of a bunch of Jewish kids. And they're like, well, just like go and meet it. And I met with like the rabbi who was going to be the principal, and I liked him, but I was like, I really don't want to study the Jewish stuff. And he's like, listen, we're going to give you a MacBook. And I said, I'm in. Like that was all it took. But we were like the first class. I think there were like 16 to 21 kids, and it was just us. And then the school grew with us. So I wound up like being one of the cool kids. Like it was the first time girls ever paid attention to me. I had like this real fresh start that allowed me to really be myself, find myself, and feel comfortable with myself. Because like that was like this schooling that a lot of these other kids had already, was like this private Jewish high school where it's like, cool, be weird, sing, dance, like we're going to express yourself in some weird, interesting way. And the school was so brand new. They're like, oh, you guys want a basketball team? Well, like, let's make a basketball team. Or like, oh, what do you guys want to do drama? Cool, let's hire a drama teacher and we're going to put on a school play. So it was really like you take what you want and you create it for yourself, which is interesting because that's how the world works. Yeah. And I got the gift of like learning that in high school of like, if you want something, you have the support around you to create it. You just have to ask for it. And though, even if like they didn't have the resources, they'd be like, okay, well, like how can we get those resources? And it was very much like a problem-solving type school in that sense. And it was also there that like so we had to do like the morning prayers and whatnot, and I hated that. I had a very like averse relationship with my religion, like through middle school, because it was like it made me different, more different than I already was, which I didn't want to be. And then also there was one day, Yom Kippur is like one of the bigger holidays. It's like the day of repentance. You fast, you go to temple all day. Picture day was Yom Kippur, and I had to miss picture day. And I was like, fuck this, I'm out. Like I can't do this for the rest of my life. There are going to be so many more picture days, and I don't want to have to be in temple for them. But like, you know, with that aversion, like I went in there and like, oh God, like this every morning we have to wake up and do these prayers. And then there was this one guy, his name was Greg Podell, and he played Redemption Song, Bob Marley's Redemption Song, as a mashup with one of the prayers. And I was like, that is cool. Like that I can get behind. And I said, listen, I don't want to be saying the prayers, but I do want to be playing the guitar and having other people sing with me. And so my mom said, okay, well, like, why don't we see if he can teach you guitar? So he became my guitar teacher and taught me like all of the songs that he was leading us through. And then slowly but surely, like as I worked my way through high school, I started to take over for him and started leading the morning prayers with these songs.
Wow.
And that was like really what my connection to my religion was. To this day, it's my favorite aspect of it. Like I still go to dinners and play those songs for friends, and I love playing guitar and having everybody sing along to songs that we know. Like that's still like maybe me at my happiest. So like that's really interesting to me. Like that this whole thing started because my 8th grade social studies teacher did not get a recommendation in on time. So
yeah, I mean. That's what the name of the podcast is Butterfly Effect.
Yeah.
It's that one thing that, you know, set off the rest of it. That's interesting. And so have you thought about doing the comedy songs, doing the stand-up? Like if you blend those two loves?
I might. I've uploaded like a few comedy songs on my channel. I have No One Jerks Off on Christmas. And
that's not true, by the way.
You know, I learned that through the comments, some very graphic comments. But yeah, so I've done that, and I did like a YouTube version of the Hanukkah song, and I'm like, you know, music has always been something I'm very interested in. I actually just wrote a musical with Antonius Nazareth from AV Byte, which is they do YouTube musicals, and that'll be coming out on the CW or like the CW digital platform sometime soon. So cool. I'm excited about that. But anyway, so music's always been a part of it. But as for stage, and music. I want to make sure I'm respected as a comedian first before I start bringing in the guitar and making it, I don't want to call it a gimmick because some people are very talented at that.
Right.
But what I would like to do is, like, when I do my special, there will be music. Like, I love to perform through spectacle. And I love to sing, and I love all of that. Like, even when I launched the new show, like, the way that we did it was through a video of me singing new show, instead of New York, New York. So, like, the music will always play a part in the entertainment that I create. But I like to build a foundation before I start decorating the tree inside, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you might not want to call it a gimmick, but you know other people would if you kind of
and
pull out the guitar.
You know, like, I really
away.
like you know, recording, like coming up with like the stand-up comedy bits, like on stage with just a microphone is great, and I don't want to have to walk out and put on a guitar. I'd rather walk out, do my thing, and then add the guitars, like the sprinkles, the cherry on top.
Right.
Because I want to be able to function without it. I don't want it to be like, oh, he doesn't have his guitar. Is he going to be funny? You know, like, you know, it's just one of those things of like, oh, he plays guitar, and like, oh, what a cool new layer.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, just logistically with building the comedy career. But so, what were some of the influences as a kid through middle school, through high school that got you into comedy? Like TV shows, comedians, movies, and stuff?
I mean, well, Robin Williams growing up was always one of my favorites. Mel Brooks. I love Mel Brooks.
Yep.
I'm trying to think, like, the early years, Jim Carrey. I loved watching Jim Carrey. Disney. I just really liked, like, those Disney movies. Aladdin was, like, really influential on me. And that's, like, when Robin Williams died, I was pretty devastated. And I was like, oh, shit, like, that's a lot. Because he's a powerful force. Not only is he a comedian who does, like, he was the genie, and then he was also from the Bay Area. And, like all, that was, like, the trifecta of doom. And I was just like, oh, devastation and depression. And that was an interesting couple of weeks there. But, let's see, who else influenced me? Early on, I'd say that those were definitely the biggest ones. My friend Steve is looking at me right now. He's like, me, I influenced you. I'm working my way. So did you just fart? Yeah, okay, he did. So Steve, for sure. But yeah, like I'd say that my biggest hit of influence for like what I'm doing now, it came when I was, and I've told this story before, so I can glaze over it fairly quickly. But I interned on the Colbert Report, and when I was there, I got the opportunity to write a joke, and it got on the show, and that was huge. And just like watching Colbert, how he functions, how smart he is, the change that he affects, and how well thought out everything is, like, that really appealed to me. And that was like, oh, like, this is the kind of impact that I would like to have. So impactfully, like Colbert and to a lesser extent Jon Stewart, ironically, have really influenced that. And then I worked at Conan, so watching how Conan handled the fall of The Tonight Show firsthand was greatly influential to me, and that kind of taught me how to go through maybe a more tumultuous time in my career, and like, well, how do you handle that, and how do you get on the other side of that while not really making anybody look like a schmuck. So that was a great lesson for me, and then I started reading a lot of like bios, like Steve Martin's bio, Born Standing Up, and Martin Short's biography, and I've been really enjoying those because everybody has these stories of these amazing stories and where they were and who they came up with, and like I look and I see around me like my contemporaries, and I look at Elliot Morgan, like Falzone, and Steve Polachuk. Happy? Okay, he's okay. But so like when I see these people, I really appreciate what they're doing, and I really do look at them with like a real sense of respect, but also like a sense of like admiration. Like I can really look at what they're doing and be a genuine fan of their work as well. So like that's why, you know, I talked about Elliot's podcast. When I watch Elliot do stand up, I get very inspired. And when I watch Mike do stand up, I I get very inspired. I think Mike is one of the best crowd working comedians I've ever seen. And sometimes I prefer when Mike goes off book. I'm like just keep going, man. Like I've heard his material like so many times, but when he riffs with an audience, like it gets me laughing in a way that I don't normally laugh, which is really great.
Yeah, there's something magical about the improvised. You know, it's like you knowing that it's like just made up on the spot makes it even funnier for some reason.
Yeah,
but
and just Mike's interactions with humans he has a very specific way of talking. It's like I wish I could kind of replicate it. I don't even want to like call out the stuff because like we will riff on each other and like whatnot, like because we've seen each other perform so many times that it's like, oh yeah, Mike's gonna come out, talk to someone in the audience, and then continue to reference them. And like that's where this whole joke of like cool hat guy came in, like where he's like, oh hey, it's a cool hat guy, like he'll give you some weird nickname, and then after like a joke he'll be like cool hat guy like that, and like just keep coming back to cool hat guy, and then all of a sudden cool hat guy is part of Mike's act,
Yeah, that's funny. That's great. So what did you go to college?
I did. I went to the University of Arizona.
Oh, hey, I got an ASU, so I mean, I guess we're supposed to be mad at each other. I don't know.
Yeah, that fades away. If you take
it's faded away in the middle of it, so like, I don't really.
The burning will retreat. Like I remember, like it's fun for sports rivalries, and you want to know why people get so upset about ASU and Arizona is because we keep getting confused for each other, and it's just like if you want like a big public university in a dry heat with a lot of blonde girls, you can be either of them. And that's the point.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So you went to, what did you go to U of A for?
The social experience. I was really into theater, like I said, in middle school and high school, and I started doing stuff with ACT in San Francisco. And one of the directors over there, I said, I want to be an actor. And they said, well, the best thing you can do to be an actor is just to go have a college experience. Like, go experience life. And I was deciding at that point between Eugene Lang, which is a tiny rural college in New York City, and University of Arizona. Oh, and Indiana University. But I remember it was like spring break, and we were going to tour the colleges, me and my dad. We went to Tucson, and the brothers of API were like, hey, like, your dad's a legacy, so like, why don't you, or you're a legacy, your dad was in the fraternity, why don't you come just hang out with us for a night? And that night was just like, I won at poker, like, it was, I'm pretty sure they set it up, like, there was a party going on, they gave me a bed to sleep in, there were beautiful girls everywhere, and then my dad's like, cool, I hope you brought your coat because it's snowing in Indiana, and I was like, hey, like, I'll just go. I was like, this is fun. So I wound up going to the University of Arizona and really I did the 2 years in the fraternity, which was interesting. Actually, I think helped me grow into myself a little bit, even though everybody like every how gay I was, which was real fun. But there were some really good guys in there that I'm still in touch to this day. Around sophomore year, like right after sophomore year, I kind of got involved with the television station, UATV, and they really just gave us free reign. And it was me and my friend Steve Polachuk and Kate Ball and East Warner Stover, and we created this show called Bin Zone, which was like a more localized Tucsonan / University of Arizona version of The Daily Show. So we would just take the current events on campus and satirize and report on them. And looking back, I'm impressed. We were able to produce a 30-minute show every week, and it aired in the dorms, and it was severely underappreciated. But, I mean, like, it exists out there online somewhere. I think people can find it. And I was not good. The writing was solid. Like, that was kind of where I first found out that I could write. And that took me to my friend Steve, and I also did a show called Surviving Arizona with Ross and Steve, How to Survive Your 4 to 7 Years at the University of Arizona. And as a part of that, we would make these videos at like the pool parties that were going on and like interview the drunk girls and like the drunk guys and kind of showcase the madness that was these huge collegiate pool parties. And those started views on YouTube. So this was like my first introduction to the whole YouTube, because like those videos were getting shared, and back in 2007, getting 47,000 views on video was like mind blowing. And we started to get recognized around campus as like the pool party guys. Like, oh, you guys did those pool party videos; those were so cool. Like, there was one time we were watching a football game at a restaurant, and there was an actor from The Sopranos in there, and the waitress was like, "You're more famous than that guy. Like, that's so cool." So we felt like kings, and that was really amazing. And got hired by the campus recreation center to make videos for them, just promoting the campus rec center. So that was like the first taste of doing this work professionally.
And coming out the gate of, did you finish school?
Yeah. I didn't.
So what was your first gig after that?
Well, so I graduated on a Thursday, and on Monday I was interning at The Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so they called me, because when I was looking for internships, I had a friend that had interned at Conan, so I was like, oh, can you put me in touch with someone over there? I want a summer internship. And they said, well, we're full for the summer, but can you do fall? And I said, well, I'm still in school, so I can't do fall, but call me again next summer, and I'd love to do it. And they did, and I had no idea that they were going to be doing The Tonight Show. I wasn't paying attention. So when they're like, yeah, we're in LA now, I was like, oh, cool. So I can, I'm graduating on Thursday. They said, can you be here Monday? And I just said, yeah, let's do it. That's like a big lesson I've learned. It's like, if there's an opportunity staring you in the face, just say yes. Way to make it happen. I can't. Like, that's been like the greatest gift to me. It's just saying yes and not worrying about it. And because like you can find a way. If there's a will, there's a way. You have to work around stuff, but you get it done. And then there are people that are willing to support. Like, I left and I was like, cool. Like, I have to go out here and do this, but I had friends that were going to move out later. I was like, I'll pay you money for the truck if you guys can take my stuff out with you, because I don't have a place to stay out there yet. They were like, yeah, sure. So, like, I was out there before I had a place to stay. I have, like, some family out in LA that I could crash with, but I was able to, get into that office and get the ball rolling within, 5 days of graduating.
Yeah, how long were you there, and what were you doing? Was that before or after you did Colbert?
This was after Colbert. My resume looked great at this point. Like, in college, I already have the Colbert Report and the Tonight Show on my resume. So I went over there, and they put me in the clip research department, which was just me and the clip researcher, who I really liked. And I would basically get the guest list to compile every interview that they did, like video links for every interview that they'd done in the past 2 years, and and any bonus funny clips that I could find on the internet. Oh, this is interesting for the producers to look over, so that when the producers would do the pre-interview with the guests, they'd know what questions have already been asked, what anecdotes had already been said, and then if there was anything funny, or they'd be like, hey, do you want to watch this? So that was my job, and it was just it was interesting because I was the only person doing it, and I was interning there for about the summer, and then it went into November a little bit. And
wow.
It's I've been here for a while, just it's I need to start making money. So what I told them is, I said, listen, this has been amazing. If a position opens up, please consider me for it. But I need to move on. And they were like, okay, great. Thank you so much for your work. And then 2 months later, they called me and they were like, hey, we're turning that old position into a paid job. Would you like to come in and interview for it? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Came in. It was real quick and easy. And then I got the job. So I was really only unemployed for 2 months. And I'm trying to remember what exactly it was that I did there. During those 2 months, but I found a way to make it work. I feel like I went up and I visited the Bay Area, and I just kind of took some time to go back home and see some friends. So that turned into a job, and then the Tonight Show ended. That was when we were there for that. There was an earthquake that day. And someone in the research department got a text saying, are you okay? And they're like, yep, the earthquake was in Northern California. And they said, no, go to TMZ.com. And then they went and it said, Jay Leno getting the Tonight Show back, or Jay Leno will take back the Tonight Show. And we were just no, well, we work at the Tonight Show. What does that mean? And then like an emergency meeting was called. There's a whole book about it. I actually highly recommend it. It's not Late Night Wars, but it's written by the same guy. But it was a really interesting time because we're like, what's going on? Like, do we have jobs anymore? And it turned out to be like the best couple months of work because everyone was like, fuck it. Like there was beer in the fridge and like we, you know, there was like this sense of camaraderie amongst everyone that was like, I can't believe we're getting screwed out of this gig. And Conan was incredible. And I know like we got a severance from NBC, but Conan gave us money out of his own pocket. That kind of amazing. Kept us afloat for a bit. So I just remember like, I, to this day, have never gone on unemployment, not because I don't believe in it. I just am fortunate that I haven't had to.
Right.
So, like, that was, like, I had this downtime, and that was when I really started focusing on YouTube. And that, my friend Brett the intern, had started working at Maker Studios around that time. And he was like, listen, like, why don't you come and work with me? And I was like, well, like, okay, like, let's check out what this is about. And I wound up getting a job at Maker Studios producing for them. So I was producing the station and the station 2 at that time, not solely producing the station, but solely producing the station 2. And I wrote, my job was to write for Brett and put him in videos on other channels so that they could grow his channel. And that was really fun because it was like, cool, I'm getting paid, although not well, but I'm getting paid to work, you know, with my best friend and make videos. And that, like, we wound up making this video called No Homo, which was a parody of Jason Derulo's Riding Solo. And that got like 4 million views. And that was like a really big hit. And like we got an email from the CEO that was like, congratulations, this is phenomenal, and you guys are doing a great job. And then the money wasn't great. And when Conan came back on TBS, they offered me, you know, my old job back. And I was like, okay, well, like I really like what I'm doing right now, but like the money and the health care and the, you know, stability. So I said, you know what? Yes, I'm going to do both. And because like I felt like I could, and it was, you know, for a long time they didn't notice because Maker Studios was also growing so quickly. There were new people in there every day, and it was, you know, it was something that like they couldn't keep track of everything. But I was still getting my work done. Oddly enough, because like after I'd go into Conan from like, you know, 8 in the morning until 6 or 7 at night, and then I'd drive to Topanga Canyon, which is where Brett lived, and that's like maybe 45-minute drive, and then we'd film our web series, and I'd go home and do it all over again the next day. And it was great because I had money to live, and I was also getting to be creatively fulfilled. I was tired a lot of it, but it was all getting done. And then they found out that I was kind of doing that. They're like, you don't work here anymore. And I was like, yes, I do. Like, look, I'm really talented and I'm doing this great stuff. And they're like, no, you don't. And I was like, okay, I guess I don't. So I wound up leaving.
Leaving Maker or Conan?
Leaving Maker. No. Conan was okay with that because it was like that, you know, I was there every day. Right. And then I got fired from Conan. And this is I'm going to like say this because it's been so long, and it's I feel like if anyone else has gotten fired, like I want them to know that it's not the end of the world, because it actually wound up being a really good thing for me. I always wanted to be a writer, and I wasn't a writer. And I had this other boss came in that was like above me, and my job started to get like more detail oriented, and I was like really frustrated with it because I felt like I've been doing this job for so long, and now they're trying to change what it was, and I felt like the extra work that I was doing wasn't being appreciated by the higher ups, because it's like they didn't need that much. Like before that person came in, it was like 2 pages of links, and then after that person came in, it was like 6 pages of links. And I'm thinking to myself, like, the producers don't have time to go through 6 pages of links and, like, watch 6 pages of video links. That wasn't my job to say. I will say that now. And but either way, like, you know, my manager, I think, called me stupid. And I remember I, like, went to HR, and I was like, they called me stupid. And they were like, oh, you know, she's been complaining about you for a bit. And we think it's best if we just, like, set you free. And I remember that they used the word set me free because it's really what it was. I was stuck at this job with the security, and as much as I loved everybody at Conan and what that was, like, it wasn't what I wanted to be doing. I wanted to be writing, and I was in a very different department.
Right.
And that was like, oh shit, what am I gonna do? But I remember I left. I was driving home that day, and I got a ticket from a police officer. I guess I made an illegal U-turn. And I was like, this sucks. Like, here's the bottom. Fired, just got a parking ticket, and screwed. So I was, like, talking to a friend, and he said, like, listen, like, we're at this digital marketing agency. Why don't you come on part-time? We can give you $500 a week, which was only $100 less than what I was making at Conan. And I was like, yeah, like, okay, that sounds great. Like, and I was just like, at the very least, it would just be a place to land and kind of figure out what I'm doing next. And what it actually allowed me to do was spend 3 days a week at an office consulting with companies for, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Like, how are they supposed to talk to an audience, which is something that I really knew how to do because of my background. And then the other 2 days a week, I got to start to develop my own personal YouTube channel. And this is when I started doing my series, Your Commercial Sucks. Like, back in the, that was like, okay, well, I can take time and create regular content. And it turned out it was pretty sweet there for a bit. And I probably would have kept doing it, and then life happened again. And it was so interesting because the company brought in this new CEO who cleaned house within like a week. He took over the meeting room, made it his office, and we were all like, what is going on here? Because this was like a small startup, maybe like 6 employees. And then all of a sudden, like, they'd be like, hey, Ross, go take a long lunch. I was like, okay. And then I'd come back and the desk would be cleaned out. I was like, what is going on here?
God.
And one by one, people are just disappearing, and it's like a horror, right? Like, you like leave, and you're like, we're just there. Who was it? Is there, like, was it Colonel Mustard with the wrench?
Sounds more like really threatening to your physical body than to economic security. It sounds like people were being taken out and shot in the backyard or something.
Dude,
like that.
I will tell you, I had because I one of them was like, 2 of them were my really good friends, and they were gone. I'm like calling them, and they're not answering, and I'm like, did this guy, like, are they in a basement somewhere? Like, I don't know what's going on. This guy had done this so many times before. Like, this was his gimmick. He comes in, demands a high salary based on what he's done before, cleans house, and then sinks the business. Like, it's a really shitty thing to do. But anyway, they were like, hey, do you think you could do John's job? I was like, yeah, but, like, couldn't John keep doing John's job? Like, he was created it, and I felt bad. Like, my friend got fired, and they were going to try and promote me into his position. Like, I felt like this strong loyalty to the guy that brought me in. So, like, I was like, keep working. And then one day they brought me in and said, Ross, like, we're letting you go, and we're not going to pay you for the past 2 weeks. And they handed me this very scary, like, envelope, and it was like stuff that's like, here's a check for $2,000, and if you say anything bad about us, that's defamation. This is a cease and desist from saying anything bad about us. And I called my uncle and I called my cousin, who's like, one's a lawyer and the other one's in the entertainment industry, and I was just like, what is this? And they said, well, that doesn't mean anything. Don't cash the check. And, like, we're going to look over everything that, has been going on here. You have your time logged. And I said, yeah, I have all that logged. And he goes, okay, well, like, you're going to have to take them to small claims court. So I was like, cool. Like, here's a new experience. I'm going to get to figure out how to take someone to small claims court.
Wow.
So I wound up, and this was, like, a bit of an ordeal. Like, I had to, like, have my friend Brett serve him. Like, be like, hey, are you, Eric? He's like, yeah. He's like, you've just been served. And the guy, like, wouldn't take the paper. So he had to, like, leave it somewhere. And I was like, I don't even know if this guy's going to show up. But he shows up to court, right? And I see him, and he's, like, trying to be buddy-buddy. And I'm like, I can't, like, how are you, like, talk to me right now? You me thousands of dollars of, like, unpaid wages, not to mention that you had me hired as a freelancer, when in reality I was working like an employee. I'm like, you're in trouble. Like, that was, like, my thought to him. And I, like, part of it is, like, you go and you show them the evidence like what you have and what you're going to go against them. So I showed it to him, and he's like, okay. And I said, and then we went back in there, and he wrote down on a piece of paper, he said, remember, winning is one thing, collecting is another. And I waved him outside, and I said, Eric, you realize you just incriminated yourself? Like, do you realize that by writing that down, it's almost an admission of guilt? And I want to let you know that if I win this case against you, it's going to set a precedent. And all of the other employees that you still owe wages to are going to come back and win in the blink of an eye. Why don't you just settle with me? And he said, okay, I'll settle with you. So he actually gave me his wedding ring, like to hold on to, because I was like, I don't trust you. He took his wedding ring off, and I was holding on to it. I went into there, and I said, like, I want to dismiss with prejudice, which means, like, I'm dismissing right now, but if something happens on the way between here and the bank, like, I want to be able to refile. So did that. He's like, can you drive me to the bank? I'm like, Eric, like, you didn't even drive to the courthouse, man. Like, I was thinking, like, you just are in such a bad way. So we get in my car. He's driving back. He's just telling me about how the CEO that came in, like, gutted the place and, you know, drove the company out of business, and, like, how kind of shitty his life is right now. And I was just like, yeah, well, that really sucks. We go to the bank, and he's like, I need you to sign something. So he gave me my money, and then he was like, I need you to sign something. I said, okay, like, yeah, let's look it over. So, like, I took a photo of it. I sent it to my cousin who's a lawyer. My cousin lawyer looked it over and said, okay, but if you sign this, you can never file a lawsuit against him again, so you can never work with this guy again. And I said, fine by me. So I told him that. And I was like, Eric, I'm going to sign this, but this means we can never work together again. He goes, well, I don't know about that. And I said, Eric, we're never going to work together again. Like, after this whole experience, if I'm going to work with you again, I'm an idiot. So I signed the thing, gave him his wedding ring back, and I left. And, like, but that was such, like, an interesting experience to me, because I never thought I would have to be in that situation.
Yeah, that's
but
like an adult
again,
thing.
There's a real adult thing. And mind you, at the time, I was, like, 23.
Yeah.
Like, this, you know, I was young to be going through that sort of thing. But it was interesting. Like, if I had to do it again, I would have to figure it out again. But I had no idea what I was doing, and it's a real interesting thing, the small claims court legal system.
Yeah, that sounds like a whole ordeal. Gosh. So where did you go after that? When did I guess we got to touch on the SourceFed thing.
Yeah, so
the whole SourceFed thing
came maybe 2 years after that. I jumped around from job to job, hosting, doing like my YouTube channel. I was a host for the Digi Tour, and then I started writing. I started writing just Onion articles. I really liked the Onion. So I started, like, just on my blog, on my Tumblr, I just started writing little articles. And SourceFed had already been cast. I auditioned for SourceFed when it first was cast because I have a friend, Bob Jens, who really liked my Man on the Street videos. Oh, that's what happened. I did a few Man on the Street videos that, like, got picked up by BuzzFeed and Huffington Post, and yeah, so, like, those were really fun for me and my bread and butter, but I have a billion excuses as to why I haven't continued them, and I still continue to make excuses about it, and I'm not perfect. So, like, that's like, those videos did well, and Bob showed them to Phil. They were over watching football. He goes, you got to check out this Ross guy. And Phil was like, oh, this is really interesting. Like, you know, and Phil reached out for, like, a meeting. And then I went over to his house, and we, like, you know, started hanging out. And then, like, he was like, come in and audition for SourceFed. So I came in and auditioned, and, like, you know, I didn't really know what they wanted, and I didn't get it. But then years later, like, you know, Phil and I'd sit in touch, and we'd, like, watch football together, and then years later, like, he reached out and said, like, hey, like, I've seen what you've been writing on your blog. I want you to come in and write for the website. I was like, cool, yeah, sure. So, like, I went in and wrote for the website for a bit, and then, like, I don't know, like, I don't want to get into, like, the finances of it all, but, like, there was, like, a time where I had to, like, you know, leave for a bit, and then I said, if you ever want me back, let me know, because I really enjoy doing it. And it was like it was really fun. Like, I clicked with the group immediately because I found them so fascinating and talented, and we had similar comedy backgrounds. Like, Lee was a groundling, and I had done UCB, and, like, immediately we were shucking and jiving together. And then he called me back, and he was like, I'm like, well, not even calling me back. We were hanging out, and he's like, I want want you to come back in one day. And I was like, cool, like I'd love to. And then I came in, and then I remember one day, I think Elliot was out of town, Trisha was out, like a bunch of people were out of town. And he just said, Ross, you want to be on Table Talk? And I said, yeah, why not? I would love to. And then I was on Table Talk, and then I told the beach story, and people like in the comments started calling me Tolly Tolly Juju, and then Phil was like, cool, like you're a host now. And I was like, great, this is awesome. Like, because like I remember watching SourceFed and being like, that would be so cool to be a part of that crew. And to be brought in and then rise up to being a part of that crew was really phenomenal. And to continue to like work with those people is still to this day 2 years later, to this day is maybe the happiest professionally I've ever been. Like, steady job, working with immensely creative and talented people, and really given quite free reign. Like, you know, I remember Phil saying that he wanted to shake things up a little bit and like bring a little bit of a new style. So like I wasn't constrained by like, you have to write a white wall. It was like, however you want to tell this news story, go for it. And I loved that. And that's how like I started to create SourceFed Investigates, and what else did we do? Like Today in History was one that like was something that I spearheaded. I'm sorry to everyone that hated it and was like, hey, yeah, this isn't news, you know. Like,
no, I liked it.
Oh, thank you. But like that, you know, so like that was something that like I was like spearheading and developing new shows for them, and it was really fun. It was really a beautiful, beautiful time. And what else was there? Yeah, so like that was something that like it was really fun to do, table talks and all of that stuff. The one show that I was like didn't like doing, but the one that was like, oh great, like we have to do this again, was Anime Club, just because that like literally I do not watch anime. I did not watch anime, and it was kind of fun to like watch it and like be like, this is so weird, or like, what are we watching? But I thought that the format was really fun. It was someone that didn't know or care about anime and someone that did. But like there was a lot of like fun, creative juices that would just get going in that office. I felt incredibly inspired and empowered to do whatever I wanted there.
So it's funny because I feel like SourceFed in a way is kind of like this might be a huge way to put it, but it's kind of like an SNL of like YouTube channels, and that people have come and then they go on and do other cool things elsewhere. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like SourceFed isn't predicated on, you know, whoever's there. It's just the idea, I guess. And I feel like it's great that people have been able to come and go.
That was my
and the channel stays stable and good.
Yeah, when I first joined, I remember I would like say that to people. I was like, "This is the SNL of the internet, you guys. Like, they're gonna write about this." Like, I was, you know, because like going to college, we studied a lot of like the dawn of television and the internet, and like this is part of that. This is, you know, like, who knows what SourceFed will look like in the annals of history, and if it, you know, will continue to have different casts or where it's going from now. But I just remember like as they would add new cast members and just to even see what the Wikipedia page looked like and the community and the subreddit and really what the audience had created around it, I got that exact same thought. I kept calling, and like I remember like Joe, Lee, and Elliot were like, "You're an idiot. Like, don't say that ever again. Like, that's not what this is." And like, I'm going to be on real SNL one day, and I still believe that Lee will get there, if not something bigger than that, because SNL is like, it's great, but you know, Lee Newton is bigger than SNL in my mind.
Yeah. And so. Why'd you leave?
Oh yeah, that question.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot that goes into it that I won't talk about, but I will say that there were career opportunities that I wanted that weren't being offered to me, and they Discovery Digital Networks did offer it to me up in San Francisco. So I made the decision to move up to San Francisco and start working on my own new show up there, to you know, really more pursue what I wanted to. Like Elliot had left, and like I could just kind of, I felt the tide shifting, and I didn't want to be this is so dumb, but I didn't want to be like responsible for like people like blaming like, oh, it was after Ross came that it started to go down.
I see what
which
you're saying.
I don't think anyone would point to me and
No.
say that sort of thing, because actually, like, we won a Streamy the year that I was there. I actually think that the year that I was there was like a really great year for SourceFed, and that the content was really strong. And even especially, it was like a year old and it wasn't brand new anymore, yet we still won Streamy Awards and were voted Variety's #5 web series of the year. And I take such great pride in the content that we created while I was there. But I do remember, like, towards the end, I was looking elsewhere and I was getting ready to leave in some way, shape, or form, because I wanted more. And I wanted more growth. I wanted to do more, and I felt like those opportunities at SourceFed weren't exactly there for me. I love to see, like, I'm very happy for Will and Matt and everybody that's there right now who's been able to create those opportunities for themselves. And like with like People Be Like and the superhero, like they've really been able to like catapult themselves to create what they want to create, but those weren't there for me. And when Discovery offered it to me up north, I kind of jumped at that opportunity. It had always been one of my dreams to go up to San Francisco, where I grew up, and be able to do what I do professionally. So when they were like, come up here and do a show, I was like, yes. Like, I'd love to. So that's like, you know, there's a lot of stuff that gets thrown around about that. And I always like to say, like, you know, I'm the host, I'm not the show, so like it doesn't matter about the personal stuff, because I really don't believe that the personal stuff played a role into what happened. I think that, you know, I'm very professional, and the company's very professional, and everyone on board is very professional, and none of that stuff played a role in what happened at SourceFed.
Yeah, and would you say that's where you got a big fan base?
Huge.
Going?
SourceFed changed my life. SourceFed and Philip DeFranco have changed my life, and like I fully credit and acknowledge and honor and love that. Like that was so helpful, and like I love the fan base. I love the audience. I think that there's a lot of amazing people in this fan base, and my goal is to just continue to inspire and entertain as many of them as want to continue watching me. Like I'm going on to do other stuff. That's what's going on. We all are, and it's no longer Ross from SourceFed. I don't want to be Ross from SourceFed for my entire life. SourceFed is a great fan base, and I hope they continue. Like, really, like what Colbert did with the Colbert Report. Like he is no longer the correspondent of the Daily Show. Like when you look back at his story, you see that.
Most people didn't even know that happened.
Yeah, and you know, like that's the next level for me, is to just be Ross. And I am so grateful for SourceFed. I think that it was an amazing stage to perform on, and I had such a blast doing it. And the next step is going to be huge as well. And I love these people, and I always keep them in mind for future projects, because we really do love each other. Like what you saw on camera between us, the love and the bloopers and the commentaries, that was all very, very real. And that's why you see us touring together and taking photos together, and like when we're at conventions together, we always hug and love each other. And I you know, that's very, very real.
That's great. So things are going well.
Things are going
good.
Oh, I feel right now happier than I've felt in a very, very long time, at least professionally. Like this past year for me, like some people see that, like, you know, when the new show ended, I didn't know exactly what to do, but I remember I got a phone call and they said the show's ending, and I said, okay. First things first, I'm going to move back to LA, because you know, living in San Francisco, it was great growing up, but right now for me, it's a totally different city. LA is where I belong. And then I got a call from Birthright Israel. Like, they're like, hey, you know, we have an extra spot on this trip. Do you want to go? And I was like, yeah, I can't say no to that. And like, that's another opportunity. It's like, if something presents itself to you, say yes. And I didn't know how I was, like, it was leaving out of New York. I didn't know how I was going to get to New York. And I just said yes. And then I was like, you know what? And I'm going to take this opportunity, and I'm going to travel, and I'm going to leave Israel and go to, you know, I typed on Facebook. I said, where should I go? I'm going to travel around Europe for a bit. Tell me where to go. And people were like, Istanbul, Budapest, Prague, Krakow. And I was like just writing down all the names, looked at a map and plotted a course and just went. And that was like really important for me, was to like get away from this work for a little bit, do something completely different. And I remember like I was in a hostel in Berlin, and I opened up like my web browser, I opened up my YouTube app and I watched some episodes of the new show, and I was like, okay, I did a good job with this. Like, I'm very proud of this show. I think it was funny, and I think it was up to my standards. I hated the set, but the content was good. And, you know, with that knowledge and having been apart from it, knowing that I still wanted to do this, I came back refreshed, renewed. I remember Joe texted me. He's like, "Are you quitting?" Like, he's like, "Are you packing up and leaving?" I was like, "No, man, I'm coming back bigger and stronger than ever." So like I came back and really just like started hustling and grinding again and getting, like, a lot of people on SourceFed don't know where I went. And that's the hardest part of this for me is I wish I got my goodbye to at least have some closure. And that's like the one part of it that's like, that would have been nice to have. So with all that said and done, they will see me again, and it's really fun because like I'll be on like Tasted or I'll be on other channels, and people will be like, "Ross, like, oh my God, you're alive!" And I'm like, "Yeah, like I've been trying to send you guys messages. I'm shooting fireworks in the sky, but I exist. I'm alive, and I have my own personal YouTube channel, and it's active. So it's like those are things that I want people to know, that they can. I do exist, and that I'm still here doing my thing.
Yeah, I've been following you since SourceFed, so that got me at least.
See?
And I told my girlfriend, I was like, "Oh, I'm interviewing someone today." She's like, "Who?" I'm like, "Ross." She's like, "Ross who?" I'm like, "Ross Everett." She's like, "Oh my gosh!" She got like all excited about it. I thought that was funny because she's a big fan of SourceFed and you as well.
Great,
so.
well, thank you. And I like the way you said that. Yeah, because it's like I you know, I'm not continuing to do the exact same thing that SourceFed was. I'm doing my own thing that I want to do, and you can like love us both. And I fully support and love the people that are on SourceFed right now, because I know what it gave to me, and I know what it allowed me to give to other people, and it's great to see the next generation. But like, you know, it's also like a chapter of my life that I'm like really like excited to move on from and let the people know where I've moved on to.
Yeah. So tell them where you moved on to. So this podcast will be the thing that tells everyone what's going on.
Let
with Ross
them know.
Everett.
Yeah, I hope you get all 1 million listens on this one.
I hope so
and
too.
all of them. A great podcast, by the way. I mean, like, I'm a very harsh podcast critic, and I thought your questions were awesome, and I think your concept is phenomenal. So
guess what? I have absolutely none written down. So
well, hey, dude, that's really impressive. You know, you just let the conversation go, and I rambled a lot, but my you know, you
totally fit what I want.
Good,
it's great.
Good. Am I the inaugural episode?
You are the 7th.
Okay.
so the answer is no.
All right.
But you're going to be in the first batch because I haven't launched yet. So I want to get a bunch in the can before I piece them out, just in case finding more guests takes a long time, which it has been. But so you're in the first batch.
Yes, wonderful. So, well, I know the struggle of podcasting. I'll do all my plugs right now. So I have
do it.
youtube.com/theRossEverett. I think if you YouTube my name, I'm the first. My channel's the first one that pops up. Just Ross Everett. Twitter.com/theRossEverett. Everything is .com/theRossEverett, and then I have my podcast now, What Did We Learn, which is intermittent but very good. I really enjoy doing it, and it seems to be something that people really connect with, and that means a lot to me. Like when people reflect on my work and they tell me like that this changed something or did something for them, it really inspires me to keep going, because I am very much in this work for the audience. I like myself. Like, I'm fine with myself. If people don't like me, that's okay too. But if I can get out there and make people happier and make people love themselves and make people some either more informed but with a smile, like, then I've done my job. And that's really why I'm doing this. And I remind myself of that every single time before I take the stage, is that I'm not out here for me. I'm up here for you. So I'm doing stand-up, and I don't have any more dates as of right now, but I will be launching my website soon, which will have a whole thing. And then always Twitter. Twitter is a great place to find out where I am, what I'm doing, and what I'm posting.
Great. Well, cool. Had a good talk?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks for talking, Ross.
No problem. Keep going.
Right? Great talk, huh? Awesome. It sounds like I'm being sarcastic after these talks, but I don't know what else to say, and I'm bad at emoting, and it's true though. It's genuine. Great talk with Ross. Go support him in every and any way you can. Any and every? I don't know which order that's supposed to be in, but next week, regardless, we have on the show Gabe Gerwin, a good pal of mine. Gabe is a games journalist, an up-and-comer like myself. I hate that phrase, up-and-comer. But he writes for Digital Trends, and we work together on Invisible Gamer, and we worked together for CGR, Undertow, YouTube channel back in the day. And so we go back. Gabe and I probably go back as far as possible for me within this realm of content creation, within this industry of podcasting and writing and things. So Gabe and I talk next week. We have a great conversation. It's always fun talking with Gabe. Until then, though, you can like the podcast on Facebook, Butterfly Effect Podcast. Follow on Twitter at ButterflyPod. Excuse me. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, you can do so on YouTube, Butterfly Effect Podcast, and on iTunes, Butterfly Effect. I don't know why I paused so much there, but I felt like changing it up a little bit. And you can also email me at trettleman@gmail.com, trettleman@gmail.com, with feedback, and if you want someone on the show, things of that nature. You can also follow me on Twitter at Edeltodd, ETTLETODD, and you can do the same there, whichever works for you. All right. You know, I'm really excited for Independence Day 2 for some reason. And that's not what it's called, but that's what I'm calling it, because that's pretty much that's what it is. I'm just really excited to see Jeff Goldblum in a big picture again. Anyways, thank you for listening.